Hey y'all, it's Nolan, and welcome back to the most disturbing films of all time! Today we're looking at the most infamous entry in a series of gruesome and disgusting films, Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood. 1985's Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood, written and directed by Hideshi Hino, is the second installment in the independent Japanese exploitation series, Guinea Pig. Presenting itself as a recreation of real events, the film depicts a young woman being kidnapped and waking up tied to a bed in a grungy stone-walled room. A man wearing a butcher's apron and samurai helmet then proceeds to threaten, drug, strip, dismember, disembowel, decapitate, and do even more to the young woman. It's on lists for a reason. Right off the bat, one of the positives of this film I think gets overlooked is the lack of sexual assault. Even the scene where the victim is stripped doesn't depict any nudity, and for the rest of the film she's covered in a white sheet. Granted, that sheet is there mostly to cover up the numerous ways some of the special effects work, and I'll touch on this topic a bit more later on, but for now I'll just say it was refreshing, as bizarre as it sounds, to have a film of this type not include a graphic depiction of rape. The lighting is pretty good. Guinea Pig, as I'll try to call it for most of this review, is presented in thematic segments, each preceded by the murderer changing the color of the room's lights. This choice adds an interesting amateur artistic flair to the atmosphere while also helping to accentuate the gore that follows. Speaking of the gore, how did they do that? These special effects are immediately way too good. Some of the particular effects that hit me were the severed hand grabbing his hand, which I still haven't figured out how they did, the heartbeat-timed blood pumping from a shoulder wound, and having her move after she's dismembered. Some of these things, if analyzed hard enough, can be discerned, but it requires analyzing them hard enough, which requires looking at a horrifyingly disturbing image of gore for an uncomfortably long amount of time. Guinea Pig definitely deserves all of the credit it gets for the special effects. This might be the best effects of any movie on the list so far. I mentioned the way the film is segmented with a changing of lights, and although that is a cool idea, the monologues that accompany those changes are tonally inconsistent, poorly acted, and ultimately unnecessary. Although the general Foley and sound design is decent, many of the sound effects during the gore scenes are just plain terrible, especially in the decapitation scene. There's a moment where the murderer seems to struggle with cutting off the victim's leg, and it doesn't quite work. It slows the pacing down after it had improved, and rather than being horrific, it feels like this.
Hey Mark.
Yeah, what's up, man?
I saw.
Now, I understand that the Guinea Pig series has always played around with the line between gruesome horror and dark comedy, but Flower of Flesh and Blood works better, in my opinion, as a straight horror, so the moments that might just be attempts at dark comedy come off as more flaws and errors. Although this film works great as a portfolio of timeless special effects, it is the truest example of what I've mentioned in previous episodes, a film that is disturbing just to be disturbing. Guinea Pig has nothing to say and does not prompt the audience to think about anything other than, ugh, holy shit, ugh. I might just be in a minority of horror fans here, but I honestly think that this is a common flaw in the world of extreme cinema in general, and is something that hurts this film. Additionally, and this is a topic that I am by no means qualified to discuss in any meaningful way, but it's worth at least acknowledging that horror in general, and especially the subgenres of extreme cinema that get marked as disturbing, have a long-standing issue with how women are portrayed and characterized. The fact is, although the cast officially includes actress Kirara Yugao, her role in Guinea Pig 2 is much more as a prop rather than a character, and this is far from unique to this film. There's a legitimate question of the way women are disproportionately depicted as victim to the most unthinkable cruelty, even more so when we include the almost flippant prevalence of sexual assault in extreme cinema and underground films, something so common I felt the need to celebrate Guinea Pig 2 for not including it. Guinea Pig 2 is similar to Cannibal Holocaust in that it's another proto-found footage film. The movie presents itself as a recreation of supposedly real footage, but it's vague enough to imply perhaps some of what we're seeing is that footage. However, unlike Cannibal Holocaust, Guinea Pig makes an attempt to overcome some of the early found footage hurdles, including choosing to have no credits. The cinematography and editing to a modern audience might come off as inconsistent to what actual footage should look like, However, the film does try to lampshade this in both the opening and closing text crawls. Either way, it seems that in the 80s, audiences easily fell into believing what they were seeing was an actual footage of a murder. This film specifically was so good at this that American actor Charlie Sheen, after seeing the film at some kind of watch party, allegedly called the FBI to convince them to investigate, as he thought he witnessed a real snuff film. However, this story has become a bit of an urban legend in the extreme and underground cinema world, so take it with a grain of salt. There is also the controversy of the serial killer Tsutomu Miyazaki. In 1988 and 89, Miyazaki murdered 4 young girls in a way that police claimed was strikingly similar to what happens in Guinea Pig 2. Additionally, the police allegedly found a tape of a different Guinea Pig series film in his room along with numerous other horror videos, and the accusation was made that Miyazaki was influenced by Flower of Flesh and Blood in committing his murders. The Otaku murders, as they were dubbed in Japan, led to heavy censorship and a radical shift in the way violence and horror was depicted in Japanese media for some time. If you ever wondered why the most wildly disturbing non-anime horror from Japan seems to be centered around the mid-80s to early 90s but then falls off for a bit after that, now you know the reason. This film is banned in several countries, and in places where it's not explicitly banned, there are nearly no distributors willing to package or sell it. The Guinea Pig series, especially this installment, has become a big name in the depraved world of extreme cinema, with not only 6 original installments, but an American Guinea Pig spin-off series as well. This is a film that I'm on the fence for if I recommend it. To be totally frank, this is the kind of movie that if you haven't somehow already seen it yet, or at least already gotten a hold of it and building up the courage to watch it, then chances are it's not for you. It's definitely a rough one to watch. Similar to Faces of Death, Guinea Pig suffers mildly from aging. However, also similar to Faces of Death, it should not be taken lightly due to its age. I honestly think when taking all things into account, Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood ranks above Cannibal Holocaust on the Disturbing Films ranking list. So that was Guinea Pig 2, Flower of Flesh and Blood. Jeez, that's a long title. Here's a Disturbing Films list, as always. If there's anything on this list you'd like to see soon, or anything not on this list that you really think should be, then let me know in the comments below. And if you want to watch the next episode of The Most Disturbing Films of All Time, as soon as it comes out, then make sure to hit subscribe. Next episode, we're looking at our first viewer request. Strangely enough, a comedy, but behind the scenes, it was dubbed the most dangerous film of all time. Thanks for watching.
I've never done a hard day's work in my life.